Welcome to Spirit Switchboard. I'm your host, Kerrilynn Shellhorn, and you are listening to us live on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 in the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM in New Orleans. If you are interested in finding out more about the shows that UPRN has to offer, you can head to uprntalkradio.com, find out more about the shows and the hosts. There is always something new happening, new shows, new hosts. The website is being updated, all kinds of fun things happening over there. So sometimes we have a bit of trouble with some of the social media sites, particularly Facebook. So if you are leaving comments over there, they're not showing up here. Sometimes they don't show up. So I would encourage you to head to any of the YouTube channels. So the Spirit Switchboard channel on YouTube, the UPRN channel, and if you comment over there, then we will be able to see them here. Oh, James, hi. Wiz is in the house. You know, James, I saw your comment this morning. It was kind of a crazy day this morning, so I didn't get in there and chat with people or say hello in the way that I normally do. Hi, Denise. Thank you for being here. It's good to see you guys. So over the summer, a social media post came under my radar, and it sparked this deep dive. And I'm so excited. As soon as I was researching and reading, I knew that I wanted to have today's guest on the show. And I was so excited when I got the email response back saying that she would love to be on the show. So I'm very excited to share with you guys. There's lots. And when you get when you're going to vibe with someone and the conversation's probably going to go super fast and it feels like you're not going to hit all the things, I have to keep reminding myself to stay grounded so I don't go too squirrel on Red Bull today, because there's so many things that I want to talk to our guest about today. Julie Dow, thank you so much for being here. Joanne Belisario, hello. Mish, hello. Hi, Heidi. Thank you so much for sharing out the show and letting everybody know and promoting. I appreciate that. Mish, it's always great that you show up. Mish is our friend in Australia. Pretty soon we'll all be talking about coffee. Hi, Sandra and Randy. Thank you so much for being here. It was really nice seeing you guys on Thunder Bay too. The Lake Superior Paracon this year was it was so great. The speakers were fabulous. They were wonderful. And it was so great that it was a 2-day event this year. So we got more of an opportunity to meet with everyone that came. It was a little more relaxed, busy, full for sure. And it had a nice flow to it. So it was nice seeing you guys. And, maybe we will get to connect in British Columbia. I've got it on my mental vision board that maybe 2026 will be the year that I get out to BC with you guys. I know it's only 9:45 a.m. there, Mish. I'm one of those people that could have coffee now, so it's like 20 after 6 p.m. here, and I could have coffee and still go to bed and snore loud enough to wake up the neighbors. So it doesn't hit me that way. Hi, Contessa Martins. Thank you so much for being here. Oh, Denny, I saw you as well too. Thank you so much for being here. So I'm going to bring out our guest so that we can introduce you all to her now. Courtney McInvale is an author, historian, and founder of Seaside Shadows Haunted History Tours, Mystic, Connecticut's original award-winning ghost tour company. A licensed tour guide and specialist in paranormal history and local lore, she leads walking and boat tours across southern New England, blending meticulous research with eerie firsthand accounts. Courtney is the author of Haunted Mystic, Revolutionary War Ghosts of Connecticut, Civil War Ghosts of Connecticut, and Civil War Ghosts of Georgia, which explore the lingering spirits of America's past. Raised in a haunted house and a descendant of accused witches, she brings a uniquely personal connection and passion to the supernatural stories she shares. Please welcome to the show, Courtney.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you're here.
Oh, I'm so glad I'm here too. I'm so excited.
It was anybody that enjoys history that much, including cemeteries, I just am going to jive with.
That's right. We're a special niche group of people.
Yeah. Pioneer cemeteries, I could spend all my days there and nights.
Yes. I mean, because you sit there and think of all the stories and all the people, and I don't know, there's just so much to go through.
Yeah, and it can be a divisive thing, though, like polarizing for some people that don't that are not comfortable either investigating or touring through cemeteries that you know. And I always remind folks there were so many people that immigrated to North America that still they were trying to bring their family here and died before they brought their family here or died alone here. The stories and history, and if their spirit's lingering, they do want to connect.
Yeah, and I think too, I mean, even if you come at it from a history perspective, cemeteries were built to be visited. Especially we have the garden cemetery movement that really takes sort of precedent in Victorian era, and the whole premise of that movement is that cemeteries would be parks and people would go there and picnic and fly kites and visit their loved ones, and there would be lavish funerals, and it was supposed to be a place where you remembered your family but still existed in life. And I love that.
Me too.
And I try to remind folks of that. Like, superstition is maybe more recent. Just enjoy what it was made for, which was to walk among the dead and remember them.
Yeah. And they do feel like a park, and it's peaceful.
As it should be. You know, I think there's a lot of people get this graveyard eeriness, but I'm like, this is just where they've come to be with their family for eternity. They're resting. They're okay.
Yeah. And I give a little confession. Jackie Collins, thank you so much for being here. My little confession about the cemeteries too is the paths are just wide enough, and you have to drive very slow, that it was the perfect spot to take my youngest son to practice driving. Yes. He had to go slow, had to stay, on this path. He was super worried about not,
Recently, I had to turn around. I was with my 6-year-old niece, and I turned around in a cemetery. She said, "Geez, Auntie, there's a lot of dead people in here." And I told her, I said, "We just say to them, we hope you're resting peacefully. Thanks for letting us come by." And she yelled that out the window. She's like, "That's all we say." I said, "That's right." We just
right? Yeah. And then we're normalizing it.
Yes. And just like, yep, they're still here. Say, thanks for letting us visit. Not, and I didn't want her to find it spooky or weird, because if I teach that now, then she won't,
Yeah. So Mish is our friend in Australia. She is also in our chat, our comedian.
Okay. I like that. The dead center of town. That's accurate.
So you wear so many different hats, like if you were introducing yourself, there's a lot, historian and author. And how do you introduce yourself to people?
Oh my gosh. I usually just talk first, kind of like I did in the title here, like that I'm the founder of these companies, because those companies are storytelling companies and they encompass really all that I do. But I also, especially when I'm giving book talks at historic places, I'll make sure they know that I am a historian, because there are people there that are really looking for those facts to be blended with the legends and lore and where they come from. So I want to make sure they know about that.
Yeah. And you can tell that you're passionate about it.
Oh, I love it. I love it so much. I'm actually sitting here looking on the other side of my computer out at like a haunted battlefield. I just like make sure I'm always staged around history in some way in my life.
I love it. So I know that part of your story, part of your journey included growing up in a house that was haunted. And are you comfortable sharing some of that story with us?
Sure. Yeah. So I grew up in New England, and if you have ever lived in New England, you are very familiar with old houses and every house having its little haunted legend, especially, there's a creaky floorboard or a flickering light. And those are things that are really common in New England, because at least as far as America is concerned, that's one of the oldest parts. We're an infant nation, and I realize that, but we're one of the oldest parts of, settlement is in New England. So there are a lot of old houses. I grew up in an old home, and we had those same things. And I grew up in an Irish Catholic family, so we're a little superstitious anyway. And so we always kind of knew that our old house did strange things, but we just didn't question it or bother it. But then as I got older, a lot of things transpired, and we could talk the whole 2 hours about that, so I won't. But there were a lot of things that happened in our personal lives. I tell people hauntings are a perfect storm of events. It's not just a rogue spirit. There's things in our personal lives and energies in our families and friends. And a lot of things were happening. I was in my teenage years. My father was working a job where he was cleaning up sites where people died under tragic circumstances. And he wasn't doing well with his mental health. And then we noticed these hauntings seemed to be exaggerated, all this activity in the home. And some of it seemed not nice. It seemed malevolent, which is, I want to say, very rare. I don't want people to go around scared.
Very true. It's so true. It is more rare than what media would have you believe.
It is. So I don't want people going around scared. It's really rare. And there were all these circumstances that led to it. And after calling priests and pastors who really weren't able to help or were frightened, my mom called a couple that was from the local area that she had heard about that came and helped. And that was Ed and Lorraine Warren. But that was before we see movie franchises and all this sort of different discussion about them, when they really were sort of the authority on the matter. And I always tell people, whether you love them or hate them, they were trailblazers in the field.
That's true.
And Lorraine was really taking the lead, because Ed had been ill at that point in his life. And she was very good to my family and to my mother. And she came to the house, and she felt like we kind of had this train station going on for spirits, almost, them coming in and out, which is why we saw good and bad, right. And she was able to sort of figure out too what was going on with the personal life that was affecting it. And she assisted in cleansing the home, talking my mother through bringing positive energy into the home for the future. And that was extremely helpful. But I was an embarrassed teenager and I was in a small town with the same kids I went to kindergarten with. in high school, and I did not want to be that weird kid. I already was weird. I didn't want to be weirder,
Yes, I do know. I totally understand that.
I was feeling so like, oh my gosh, I was interested, but I was also embarrassed. It was like this simultaneous thing. And I was also blaming myself because I had been interested in the occult. Had I done something, all these things, right? And not the occult in a bad way, just a curious way. And so I didn't tell anybody. I went to college and I didn't tell anybody. I got a government job for a while. I tried to do this very cookie cutter life, but that's not what I was made for, what was meant for me. So that only lasted a few years. And then I delved into everything I'm doing today. But that childhood experience was absolutely crucial to my curiosity and to my knowledge that there's something more out there, and there's a lot we don't understand.
And moving into what you do now and leading people to places that have a history of folklore and hauntings, and
yes,
that would help you understand and have confidence with your own boundaries and understanding how to maneuver through fear and so that you were confident in bringing people through who may have those. Can you talk about that?
Oh, 100%. So a lot of people tease me. They're like, what's the scariest thing you do? Or what's the scariest place you go? And I'm like, none of them scare me.
Yeah.
So, and not because there is an activity or things that I can't explain or scary legends. There's all those things, but I'm not scared because I have changed the trajectory ever since I grew up in a house that had a mix of things. I have made sure I have focused on human stories and keeping spirit alive and connecting in a way that ensures their memory and honors them. And I feel such a purpose in doing that, that I'm not scared to share their stories. Occasionally I might be in a dark area at night and hear something and skedaddle a little more quickly,
right.
Because I'm like, oh, I don't know if I know this spirit. But I really go out there now to learn. I want to learn, are you coming by to talk to me? Is this energy? Is this a slip in time? I'm out there to figure out all these levels of history and sharing the stories of these people and getting to know them historically. It's my comfort place. I dig it. I really like being around them. So for me, I just don't work with negative energy. And I live in the past in a sense.
And it's layered. Like every place is going to have so many different layers to the story.
Yeah.
So, when you started this, how was your community in embracing what it is that you wanted to do?
Oh, that's a good question.
I'm so sorry that I have a tickle in my throat.
You're all right.
I'm going to get through this really quickly.
Yeah, you're all right. You have some water or something. So the community, well, it wasn't actually that embracing at first. And like, I hate being honest about that, but it's true. And it really depends, where you are. I think geographically, who you talk to, what they believe. Connecticut is my home. That's where I'm from. That's where I was raised. But there's also a lot of stigma there and a lot of, older ways of thinking where people are like, no, we don't have ghosts. Absolutely not. I don't want any of that. And they have this really negative, so when I was walking around saying, hey, I want to start these tours, there were a lot of doors shut in my face. Like, no, I don't do ghosts. But at the same time, there were amazing places and locations where they were like, yes, I want to share these stories. I want to share these ghosts. They helped open up their archives for me to find stories.
Oh, wow.
They helped open up their location. So it was a mixed bag, really. The community as a whole started to adapt as they realized we were honoring the history in a way that wasn't exploitive. There have been people who have expressed concern, but I always encourage them to talk to me about how we approach history. I've had kind of a recent culture shock because I've started tours in a location down south, and I expected that community to be a little bit more conservative when it came to spirituality, just because of the nature of where we are in the Bible Belt and everything. But I have found this community to be the most embracing community to the paranormal and the folklore, because it's in the foothills of Appalachia. This is something that is part of their culture. And I think what I also love about it too is I found that people in this region of the South, they have been documenting ghost stories for hundreds of years. That they're not hiding from it. They're like, no, this happened.
And it's a melting pot of cultures there too, right?
Yes, because you have to remember, in the Appalachian Mountains, you have the Scots Irish, who have their very spiritual beliefs. You have the Germans, who also had a lot of fable and folklore. I mean, look at the Brothers Grimm, but they also have these unique beliefs. You have that coming here. You have the former enslaved population from Africa and surrounding areas, and their belief systems, and their belief in haints and sort of this voodoo and hoodoo. And you have that combining with the Irish, Scottish, German folklore in these areas, especially in areas where people didn't have a lot of money. These people are together a lot of times sharing these stories, and this belief system is adapting. And I think that's part of what makes it so fascinating. And then to top it off, you had the Cherokee, who were very spiritual, residing here. A lot of people were mixed, European and Cherokee tribe. And so just combined those cultures, and you get just sort of this, effervescent spiritual bubble that has carried forward. And I've always been fascinated by that, but I think it's really neat and makes it extra haunted in a way.
I would agree with that. And do you not find that everybody has a ghost story though? So they may, in front of folks, say that they don't want to discuss it, or no, they don't. But then as you're slipping out the door, they're going to pull you off to the side and go, so I do have this like one time.
Oh, 100%. My favorite is a lot of times older gentlemen on my tours, they'll look skeptical from beginning to end, tell me that they don't believe. And I'm like, it's okay. I just want you to have a good time. You don't have to believe or not believe anything. I'm just going to tell you the stories, right? But my favorite is at the end when they, A, tell me they loved the experience, but B, tell me that they know something or they had an experience, and the stories either reminded them or made them feel comfortable enough that, hey, a lot of people do, and this is actually a cool thing, not a bad thing. And so I'm trying to like pull that back so that people don't feel the stigma I had when I was growing up, where I was so embarrassed in my teenage years to be the girl in a haunted house. Now I want everyone to feel like, hey, it's okay if you had an experience and you don't know it. You don't have to define it. You don't have to be a full-fledged skeptic or believer. Just go through life with an open mind and take in what comes to you. And that's enough. That's enough.
It is. And there's almost like you can feel that energy shift when they do share, like this surrendering into, and this, okay, now, somebody is just holding space. No judgment, just holding space.
Yeah.
I tend to ask gentlemen when they come out to my events if they were voluntold or if they volunteered.
Yeah. I love that. That.
And either way, I'm glad they're there, and hope that they have a positive experience.
Exactly. And I feel like I'm blessed in the sense that I get to work with both sides. The spiritual side is very like goddess, female power. The history side, I work a lot more with men in general. We see that history is a much more male-dominated field. So I feel very blessed that I have something in our experience to offer both men and women who are looking for something, and hopefully they both benefit from it. One of my favorite movies, there's a quote where the girl says that men see things in a box and women see things in a round room. And I've always felt like when I talk to my guests, I can really see that, and there's nothing wrong with either, but you can see how their mind experiences things.
Yeah. The different perspectives in it.
Yeah. More of a black and white, literal, A plus B equals C versus this more sort of gray area and less fine lines when you're talking with women, and but that's what makes it beautiful, and that's what makes it more authentic when they both have something that speaks to them.
Was there a defining moment when you decided that your passions and interests were going to create this business?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I think so. So I was working for the government up in Vermont after I worked in DC. And I had always grown up. My father was a history major. My mother was a teacher. So I'd grown up quite a bit with history. My dad also read me Stephen King books, so I always liked spooky things.
That's so fun. My sister tells everyone, I'm 7 years older than my sister, and my sister tells everyone that I made her scared of everything because I used to read her Pet Cemetery when she was like 6 to fall asleep at night.
Dramatic, but also now I look back and I'm like, all these little things made me who I am, right? My bedtime reading from him was like, Southern history books about the Civil War. So fancy that, or Stephen King. And then my mom was, she was the teacher. She was reading things that helped us learn how to read stories, making sure we had, Harry Potter come in the rotation, magic, all these things. She had our room Disney-fied. And so we just really had this really funny dichotomous, pair, but they definitely all influenced me. I think, when it came, I'm still evolving in what is like my favorite parts. But when I first was starting this business, I lived in Vermont. I knew I had wanted to be a writer as a kid. I knew I wanted to get back involved with everything. I had no idea how, because I was living in such an in-the-box lifestyle. And I took a date with my husband one night on a ghost walk in Burlington, Vermont. It was called Queen City Ghost Walk. And the founder, Thea Lewis, was giving the tour. And she was this just totally magnetic, fantastic storyteller. She wrote books, and I thought, I love her, and she's living my dream. So I asked her and I was only about 25 years old at the time. I asked her if she would talk to me about how she got started and any advice she could give me into, pursuing a path like that. And she was so sweet. And she had lunch with me, and she told me about the publisher she worked with and what motivated her and how she got started. And nothing like proprietary, but just like uplifting and motivational, and how I could do it. And I, much to the dismay of my poor mother, quit my very stable government job with no plan other than I'm going to do this too. And I went back to Connecticut, and I started Seaside Shadows, and I started writing books. And then as the years went on, I felt for a variety of reasons, I just kept getting brought to the American Revolutionary War in my research and in my stories. And I wrote about that and really fell in love with that time period. And then during COVID, and sort of my dad had passed, and I was sort of connecting with his, legacy. I took myself on a pilgrimage to Civil War battlefields that he would have loved. And it was very emotional, but it also inspired me to get back involved with that side of it too. And so with that, even when I go on vacation, I visit battlefields, I've always felt this weird tie into spirits who died in war and war-torn places. And I felt that I was helping to be a voice for their story. So that all sort of connected in a weird way and put me in this very niche place of where I am.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And when it's in alignment with what you're supposed to be doing, it just becomes this magical thing.
Yes.
And I think for our moms, in that, I think that we live their inside, what who they are on the inside, wish that they could just jump outside of the box as well too.
Yes.
I know my mom has said that I scare her. And I like that I just leap and I do these things.
Yes. My mom worries about that too. I mean, my mom taught for 37 years. And she'll joke with me. She's like, Courtney, my mom wanted me to be a teacher. I became a teacher. I just didn't question it, like she was of a time too, where you kind of did follow these more career driven paths. This is what's, I'm supposed to do. And I think it was more a mix of maternal worry. Is Courtney going to be okay living this untraditional life, or is the world going to eat her alive? And then it was also like, I don't know what the plan is. You know what I mean? Like, what does a career look like when you're self-employed? And when you're looking at that from a perspective of someone who's worked decades in a career, it's of course baffling. And I didn't know. I was in my 20s. I didn't have defined answers to ease her mind. I was just like, no, we're just going to do it and we're going to try, because you only live once and I don't want regrets.
And they gave you such a beautiful foundation of curiosity and seeking information and wonderment. Yes. Really, they gave you this beautiful foundation that we get to benefit from now. I agree. Storytelling and with your books.
Thank you. I remember once I was sitting with my therapist after my dad passed, and I was talking about how, I missed getting to tell him what I was doing with my career, and and having him see it, right? Because there was a lot that was fraught at the end of his life, and he didn't get to see what I got to do, and I was feeling guilty about that. And she was like, Courtney, didn't you just say that your dad read you history books and scary books? I said, yeah. And she goes, and haven't you said that he used to just take you on walks and tell you stories? I said, yeah. And she was like, what are you doing for your job? I was like, oh my gosh, like I didn't like put it together, and on the side of my mom, she's my biggest fan now. Like, she will promote and share everything. She'll show up at a tour if I need her. She'll sometimes tell a story and get involved. It's really cute and I love it. And she'll tell everyone my daughter has this award-winning business. And so she's fully just immersed in, but I can understand why it was nerve-wracking in the beginning. But I couldn't be who I am without either of them. So
that's right. And it's a beautiful thing when we can watch our children doing what brings them joy.
Yeah.
So I'm sure for her, just watching you be who you are and share that authentically from your heart space is, joyful for her.
I think it is. She always talks about me being happy, and I laugh because she's an artist too. So her house is very colorful and all these things she creates. And you walk into her house and you see all of this color. About Prime Center is a bookshelf with my history books and like these historic figure faces in the middle. And I just laugh. She's like, yes, people notice my books. I'm like, I'm sure, because her aesthetic is so opposite, but she's supportive,
That's so amazing. Do you, if this is too personal, then you can tell me. We're bypassing, right?
Okay.
Do you feel your dad every once in a while when you're on those tours? Do you like we all talk about signs and symbols. Has that come out for you during a tour?
Yeah, more I would say in Georgia than Connecticut, simply because he's from Georgia. So that was another thing too, is so my mom's family was from Connecticut, and my father's family was from Georgia. So that kind of explains both sides of my work as well, and hitting those ancestral roots. But he was from an area called Macon in the center of Georgia. And the last couple of years, the Historic Macon Foundation has had me give talks on the Civil War and things like that in the area. And what they've done is put the talks in a mausoleum in a cemetery that they put out a buffet and seating, and but it's so beautiful. Like, it sounds funny, but it's so beautiful.
No, I'm sure it is.
It's so perfect. And we're near some of these Civil War graves, and it's one of my favorite. And they had this like path of lights. I love doing the talks there. And when I was giving my talk on Civil War Ghosts of Georgia, I of course thought of him being in his hometown. But for like a moment when I was talking, I swear I could like see him standing in the back where the door was open, just nodding and smiling like he heard me, and he was proud. And it was just for a moment, but it was just so real in that moment. And I got kind of teary thinking about it, but like it just made me know that maybe he does know what I'm doing. And occasionally too, when I'm driving around researching and it's like one of the people he liked, I'll like feel like he's like in the passenger seat or something like that, like coming along. Yeah. So it's not all the time or anything. No. A lot of people think like, oh, don't you connect all the time? No, but it's like just maybe when I need it.
Yeah. And it's the synchronicities. Like that's how I find it. It's these magical synchronicities that just make everything fall into place.
Yeah.
That that somebody's helping you out.
Yeah. I remember the other night, a few weeks ago, I was driving through the battlefield and they've been closing down some of the roads. And so I got like lost and I didn't put on my GPS for whatever reason. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm getting a little creeped out. And I asked for help. And then I found the right road, and a song that he used to like sing to me came on the radio. And I was like, oh, thank you. Like sometimes just stuff like that where you're like, thanks so much. Like you can't prove it, but
no. Yeah. And we don't have to. And we don't need anybody else to validate it for us. We just know it's our truth in that moment.
Exactly.
And it's comforting.
Yeah. And it feels good then. And sometimes I talk to the spirits that I work with too. Like if I get lost in the woods, I'm like, hey, especially if it's on a battlefield or they're soldiers, I'm like, boys, you better walk me back to my car. I'm getting nervous, like.
Yeah. And I think that they want that. And the more that we go to those places, we build relationships with them.
Yeah, we do. I mean, I always, when my husband drives me around, I'll say, take me to see the general. And he knows that there's this spot where I've experienced this spirit who's a general, and he knows where to like bring me. And I just love it.
That's fun.
Well, and actually speaking of, we were talking about synchronicities in time. I can tell you that general, that's how I encountered his spirit is, I was sitting in this area of the battlefield where he had been shot. Like I was sitting there in the middle of the day. And I was actually reading his book because I'm a total history nerd and I read their memoirs for fun. And I was reading his book and he was talking about a different battle at the time. And I heard a voice say, hello, like just like announce himself. And I looked up, my husband was with me, but he doesn't always hear and see what I hear. So I didn't say anything. And he said to me, Courtney, didn't you hear that man say hello? And I said, yes, but I didn't want to spook you. And we looked around to see, of course, was there a hiker, someone coming through the woods, whatever it could be. And we didn't see anybody. So I went back to reading and I made note that it was around 2 p.m. In the afternoon. And I kept reading my book. And then I got to the part of his memoirs where he talked about getting shot in this area. And he survived it, but he obviously to write the book, but he wrote, I was shot around 2 p.m.
I love that.
Right. And I was like, was it you? I immediately felt like it was. And I've had things like that. Like when I go to Gettysburg and I hear drumming or marching, I can usually match it to when there would have been a march into or out of battle at that exact moment, that these times sync up. It's really fascinating.
It is fascinating. And it probably inspires and lights you up, fires you up for more.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Just that little validation that they know you're there and you're doing something. Oh, I love it. I love it so much.
So Seaside Shadows has expanded.
Yes. So
how do you decide? What town
where to go? Right. So it's hard too, because I want to clarify, we are a small business and I put my full heart and soul into all of the tours and books, and I don't intend to be a sort of a chain that has locations everywhere that I can't manage or have a pulse on. It has to be something personal to me that I've worked on. So Seaside Shadows started to honor my home in Connecticut where I was raised, and has expanded into a graveyard there that features a lot of Revolutionary history, which I love. And we still operate there. I have an amazing team of storytellers who have been with me for years and years that I've personally trained. So we're still there. When I was writing Civil War Ghosts of Georgia, sort of on that Civil War pilgrimage of spiritual connection, I was traveling all throughout the state, and there was this town that kind of, if you think of it, if you think of like haunted Civil War towns, liken it to Gettysburg or Antietam, Sharpsburg, Maryland, Harper's Ferry, places like this that have a rich history and a small town that comes with it. And there was this place called Chickamauga, and it has the largest battlefield in America, the first battlefield park in America. And it had the most fascinating history and the cutest little town, but not a single tour or anything that was sharing this history. And I wrote about it, and it ended up being half of one of the volumes of my Georgia book. And I just kept feeling like this place needed to be shared, or it was going to be forgotten. I was like, this needs the attention the others get. There were 35,000 casualties here. Who's going to remember these people? And so I was blessed. I had these things sync up. This Airbnb host that I always stay with introduced me to a wonderful friend of theirs who introduced me to the town, who toured me around and invited me to give tours here, and offered us a storefront. And it was one of those times where I almost tried to talk myself out of it. Like, oh, what am I going to do? How do I do Seaside Shadows and this new location? How do I bridge 1,000 miles? How do I make both happen? And I was pacing and talking to friends. And one of my friends, who's a ghost tour operator out of Orlando, said, Courtney, you'd be stupid to say no. Like, you just would. Like, this came to your lap for a reason. You have to say yes. And she goes, and this is a really cool opportunity. And she goes, and you already wrote it. You already wrote it. You already know it. And I was like, you make a point. And so I said yes. And she's a great friend. Yeah. And I said yes. And we, my husband and I came to Georgia in July, started setting up, and I opened Southern Shadows in Chickamauga on the anniversary of the battle this year, September 19th. And so we're still here getting that off the ground. We've had some wonderful tours. We're working with an old mansion that was also a hospital during the war, and just doing some really great fun things, and still working with my staff in Connecticut. I'll be back in Connecticut next month with my friend John Zaffis. We'll be investigating an old mafia speakeasy that overlooks the ocean.
I saw that advertisement that the tickets were up, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's fabulous.
Yes. So yeah, that's what we'll be doing.
I love it. And the Ghosts of Christmas Past, like, is that what it's called? Ghosts of Christmas Past, is that what it's called?
Ghosts of Christmas Past, yes.
Yeah, yes. Ghosts of Christmas Past. But I got super excited about that too when I saw that little advertisement, because everyone thinks that October's the spooky month, but it's not. It's not Christmas.
Yeah. That's when ghost stories originally started being told.
Yeah. Just even like doing what I do, working as a medium full time, I've always seen it that way. October, Halloween is just the door opening.
Yes.
Like leading up to Christmas is when it peaks.
Yes. I mean, because it's all centered around winter solstice. And that's part of it too, is like, their solstices are the times of light and dark when the veils are thinnest. Christmas, it came from solstice tradition. And before Halloween really went through Western Europe, people were gathering to tell stories of the people they left behind at Christmas time, know.
Ghost stories by the fire.
Yeah, that's right. It's in Christmas carols. I remind people of that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
Ghost
yeah.
Stories by the Fire. So your tours are known for like being history first, right? So
Yes.
the no gimmicks, history driven. So
History driven. Yes. So what I find really important is I cannot tell you when I wasn't there at a certain time if the story is real or not. All I can tell you is the way it was documented and how it was told. So, what makes it real to us, what makes it special, what makes Seaside Shadows or Southern Shadows special is that we are going to tell you the history that corroborates that ghost story. So if we get a ghost story, my job is to go research the history that supports it, find out if there is anything that happened that would lead to this haunting activity, that would lead to this folklore to be created. Is there anything that's supported that or rebutted that? Things like that. I will always be the first to research that, and I will present to you the true history, the true ghost story, and how they correlate. And one of the things that we've started implementing this year as well to show you how history driven it is taking old newspaper articles and things of that nature, and putting them out there, so that we're showing you on the tour, here's what was documented in 1881 when this resident encountered this ghost, or when this phantom train was seen in 1872. It was documented in this paper. So what was going on and who could it be? But we want to make sure you see that we're not making this up. This isn't AI generated. This is, Courtney is going to sit here and pour over history books and pour over interviews and, recorded legend and make sure it all matches.
I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's funny, because it sounds like a whole lot of work, but when it's your passion, it doesn't
feel like work. Oh, it's my greatest joy. I would say I much prefer, I much prefer doing research and reading history books than I prefer any other part of running business. I find the rest to be the dreary part. I love the ghost part.
I bet. One of the questions that I ask when I'm on paranormal investigations to the spirits when I'm doing investigations, or I guess even in sessions it comes up too, though, is asking if there's part of their story that we don't know yet. And is there a piece that they would like me to share for them? Is there a piece? So is there... And I try to remember to ask that in every place that I go. So do you have a question like that, or a promise you make to spirits as well, or to yourself in how you want to connect with spirits or tell their stories? Do you know?
Yeah. I always, when I go to investigate or talk with spirits, I always ask them to help me find the truth. Or let me know what they want to say. In every single investigation, I'm like, what do you want me to tell people about you? What do you want to be remembered for? And then the other thing that I've gotten really in the habit of, and this sounds really dorky, is especially because I work with a lot of people, spirits who are buried in unknown graves or far from home because of the nature of war. I will always say to them, you are remembered and you are loved, because I feel like in a way they need to hear that.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, that's always my thing, is you're remembered and you're loved. And I hope they know that, because I truly feel that way about them. And I hope that helps their spirits.
Yeah, I'm sure it does.
Yeah, I think most people knew death would come. Everyone does. But it's the fear of being forgotten that is, I don't want them to feel that they are.
Sometimes those spirits that feel up in your face a little, they are really just wanting that validation that they are seen or heard.
Yes.
They're just, hey, I'm right here. Are you paying attention to me?
Yes, exactly. Oh, I have to let my cat out of this room. So sorry. I'll be really
That's
quick.
okay.
He's going to
okay.
yell.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do the station ID now.
Okay, perfect.
Time.
Okay, perfect. All right.
Yep. So thank you, everybody in the chat. Thank you so much for being here. If you are just joining us now, you are listening to Spirit Switchboard, and I'm your host, Kerrilynn Shellhorn, and you are listening to us live on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 in the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM in New Orleans. If you're interested in finding out more about the shows that UPRN has to offer, you can head to uprntalkradio.com and find out more about the hosts, the shows. There is something for everyone. It's not all high strangeness and paranormal. There are all kinds of new shows happening, and the website is being updated. We heard there might be a chat, there might be a merch store, all of that kind of fun stuff happening. So thank you so much for being here. Sandra Cordick, I saw you. Good evening. Thank you so much for being here. Carrie Fast, hello. Thank you for being here. If I missed you earlier. Kathy Leighton-Lemire, thank you so much for being here. Sherry Madigan, hi. Thank you so much for being here. I think if I missed anybody, I'm really sorry. I think I got everybody. Folks in the chat, do you guys walk around cemeteries? I have always been fascinated with cemeteries. Hi, Marilyn. Marilyn, are you? I think that you're on next week, right? Marilyn Kaufman, folks, she is the author of Lifetimes. She does past life regression, life between lives. She is going to be coming back on Spirit Switchboard, and we're going to be talking about spontaneous past life memories. Yeah, next week. That's what I thought. I'm very excited. And you know what? I had a guest, or I connected with somebody, and they had that experience. So I was talking about you, and that you would be coming back on the show. So I'm really excited about that, Marilyn. I hope that she reached out to you. I'm glad, Kathy. I find cemeteries peaceful as well too. Contessa. Oh, you also lived in a haunted house. Oh, I can't wait. So maybe we can talk about that really briefly too next week, Marilyn. Contessa, I agree. The older the cemetery, the better. And the ones that sometimes you have to like walk through the ditch because it's hidden through the brambles on the other side, I'm all for those ones too.
Yeah. Well, there's gritty stories in those because those are the people without money, right? So there's the farm stories and the stories of the forgotten that you can find.
Yeah. And I always look when we go to a new cemetery to explore outside of the boundaries on the other side of the fence, because sometimes, you know, the property lines got moved or there's people buried on the outside of it. So looking for those ones as well.
Yeah.
Oh, Misha's our friend in Australia. So she's sharing, I liked how the old cemeteries had how they passed.
Yeah, I mean, there's she said like if you were shot. I remember in Connecticut, during like the pandemic, I made YouTube videos about cool graves and hidden graves, and there was one where it was like killed by a madman or something like that, and it was like literally a guy who went unhinged and axe murdered people. And I uncovered this story, but like the fact that on that victim's tombstone forever it says, you know, killed by a madman. You know, and I went to another grave where it was sort of this jilted lover who killed them both, but because of what he did, he was buried upside down. And it remarks about that as like a punishment, that he couldn't see heaven, and just like crazy legends that very much were real, that showed how much people. And I think this is always what I want to get across my tours is we think believing in ghosts and spirits is new. No, people have believed in the eternity of a soul for a very long time.
Yeah, agreed. It's just saying, see, very interesting. You know what I've always wanted to come across and have not yet is recipes. Like you see
I've
people
heard
finding
about that.
recipes, and I have yet to find one. And I am on a mission. Like,
Heard about that. And that can't be, I just like, to be fair, it's like, this is going to be a weird thing to say, but like, that's going to be expensive to engrave that. Because I mean, I remember writing about people back in the day, like you paid by the letter. I can't imagine it's that different. And that's why sometimes you see missing letters, because it's like, we got the point across. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So I can't imagine to engrave a full, I know technology has advanced, but to engrave a full recipe still. Yeah.
Like grandma's cookies. I just wanna find one. I want to find one.
It would be so cool, right? Sometimes I think you can do it too. People put those, I've seen too, like a QR code, and you can scan it and it will show you like photos or memories of who that person is in their life. And I think that's really cool too.
That is very cool. What would that look like though 50 years from now? That's what I think. I don't know. I told my kids I want to be cremated and shot off in a firecracker over Lake Superior.
I because of the nature of my work, I'm always finding graves, and then that leads me to find their story. And so that kind of inspired me to say, I actually do want to be buried, because I want one day the idea that 200 years from now, someone will be like, who was she? What was her story? The way I do that. And I don't know. There's something about it. And even one of my favorite songs from one of my favorite bands is called Bury My Bones. And it's about being brought back home and following a trail to the stone, which is what I spend my life doing. I even got that tattooed like on half my arm. And so now I joke with people. Someone asked the other day, they said, bury my bones. I said, yeah, I come with instructions.
There is, so I did it. I love doing this so much that when I did my talk last year at the Lake Superior Paracon, I talked about investigating cemeteries and why people should and how to do this ethically and that kind of stuff. So that was the talk that I did, and I showed this headstone this fellow had made, and it's a puzzle, and it's actually this very beautiful tribute to his wife, but it's a puzzle. So you have to really take time with his headstone to decipher the puzzle that he created on it. Wow. I know, it's fascinating. It's fascinating what people do. So this is what Cindy Waghorn is sharing as well. The older stones are so beautiful, tall, and creative and fascinating.
I don't know. Cindy might be referring to obelisks, right? That kind of, they look like the Washington Monument of gravestones. And the fun fact about obelisks is that they were the sign of someone really affluent, because they wanted you to see them first, just like they did in life.
That is funny. Contessa is sharing the cemetery. You know what, Contessa, I'm probably going to muck that up. Babsia?
Yeah.
Is buried, have deer that visit all year, and whenever we go there, we find them walking around the grounds peacefully. Food is left for them, so they are taken care of.
Oh, I love that she says that about the deer, because I actually wrote about that in my books, that deer are spirit messengers. Because when I go to cemeteries very specifically, and I am like, where is this person buried? Without fail, a deer will show up, usually a little buck, and he'll be standing or walking to that grave, and I will find it. And here on the battlefield that I've been investigating, it's always deer. I now keep deer food in my car because some of them know me. They'll always lead me to the right spot. I truly believe that they are these beautiful earthly messengers from the spirit world.
Thank you for sharing that.
Of course. It's my personal belief, everyone's different, but
yeah, no, I love that. Mesh, our comedian, I want a plaque, something to say, hey, I was on Earth, don't need to repeat.
Unfortunately, those making those decisions aren't on Earth.
Yes. Carrie, you may be new to adventures, and not everybody has a fascination to walk through cemeteries, but Maybe this
Yeah.
will inspire you today.
I mean, it can be spiritual. It can be a history lesson.
Yeah.
Parts of my cemetery tours, while we do spiritual legends, we also tell stories of some of the things that people buried there, but also what are these stones made of? What were these stone cutters doing? What were the practices for burial? What were some of the things they dealt with? Yeah, what does this mean? So some of it's just fascinating from a curiosity perspective about humans and society and culture.
What is the word? Like when you have a there's a specific name for it, isn't there? When you have a fascination of
I think
graveyards.
it's a tachyphile. Is that it? Does that sound
Sounds
right?
right.
Or
I'm gonna
tack or tad, something like that. I
Yeah.
forget. It's somewhere along those. I don't know. I probably should know if I am one, but
You're a historian, so that's what we're running with. That's more than just having a fascination of walking through.
yes, but I don't know. I also like sometimes find again, this sounds really weird, but when I'm really stressed, sometimes I'll go sit at some of the graves of some of the people whose stories I've shared, just because by nature of learning their stories, I've felt some of them to be like almost family. And that if I sit with them, I feel a sense of peace,
I don't think that there's anything weird about that at all.
No, thanks.
No, because I do the same thing.
Yeah.
And it is, I don't know, calming or peaceful. It's a place to connect. I just
There's this one lady, she's buried in Mystic, and she was a mother and a wife and helped her husband do so many things, but there's just something about her. She's been a protective mother spirit to her son who passed, and I've often shared her stories but also sat and talked with her, and she has instances where guests have talked to her. She's helped them find things, but I went to investigate the home she lived in because I befriended the man who owned it at the time. And we went there, and I will never forget it. I said, "Hey, it's Courtney. Do you remember me?" And a female voice came through and said, "You come talk to me." And I knew it was her, confirming that she listened. We even have a story about her where a guest was on our tour and was really upset she had lost her wedding ring. And she went to go talk to her grave because they both had 3 daughters, and she knew she would understand. And her name's Sarah, the person who's buried there. And she went around Mystic the next day and finally called the aquarium, and they said, "Oh, we're so glad you called back because a woman just came in this morning and left it for you. She didn't leave any contact information, said only to tell you that her name was Sarah."
oh my gosh, I just got tooth bumps.
I love it, right? I love it so much. So she's one. And when she ever said, "You come talk to me," I was like, I do.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's like a gold nugget piece of,
It is.
Yeah.
It is. My friend would still call me for like years after and say, "Do you remember when Sarah said you come talk to her?" I said, "Yes." He was like, "I still can't believe how clearly she said that,
So a haunted mystic. So for listeners who've never been, I've never been to any of the places that you have written about.
It's okay.
But I get to experience it through you, right?
Yes.
So what makes Mystic that perfect sort of storm for those kind of
activity?
Yeah, maritime history and hauntings, and what makes it that perfect?
So I often believe that both water and mountains, these sort of big earthly elements, can be conduits to spirit activity. So that kind of centers around my tours. Mystic is at the heart of this halfway point between Boston and New York in the seafaring day. But I think a lot of the energy that comes there is actually from the Pequot tribe. They were the indigenous people of that area who were unfortunately massacred in the 1630s by some of the settlers there. But their spiritual beliefs, they are the ones who named the town for the river, honoring its energy. And what happened to them is is death by fire, and Mystic has continually received mysterious fires since that event, usually at that time of year. So I do feel like that there's a big spiritual component that's coming from the indigenous Pequot tribe of Mystic. And then you pile that with some of the most notable shipbuilders that America had, shipwrecks off the coast near Block Island and Fisher's Island that were kind of like the Titanics of the New England. You had natural disasters, some really big hurricanes like the Hurricane of 38. And then you have just all of these people sort of settling here that were also patriots in the American Revolution. And so you just sort of have this hub for important people and happenings, and the water bringing everyone. And it's just sort of compiled into this beautiful mix of mystical energy in a town that's named Mystic.
That's wild. And layered. Again, this layered history. Right.
Very layered. Yes. And same where I am working for the Chickamauga tours. It's a lot of Civil War, but I'll also the Cherokee and the Trail of Tears and what happened to them, the railroad history, the mysterious train wrecks, the enslaved people and what they went through and their legacy. And there's just so much that can't be like, considered in just one person or one part of history. And I love peeling back the onion and all those layers,
So the Daniel Packer Inn.
Yes. That when I told you that there were people that opened their doors and welcomed me and embraced me from the get-go, it's Daniel Packer Inn. There's a woman there, Allison Kiley. She owns it. She's the manager. She's everything. She opened her doors to me and said, we need a ghost tour, and we have ghosts. And she shared with me stories, and I even had experiences when I was interviewing her. It's a historic inn that was built in 1754 by a man who was a revolutionary patriot and his family. He was also a sea captain. They were shipbuilders. His ghost is very prevalent there, as he was a very amicable innkeeper who loved to host people, and he still does. And generations of his descendants did as well. There's a little girl there named Ada Clift. She was his great grandniece, and she passed there scarlet fever when she was 7. And she's been probably the most popular ghost there. She's called the Giggling Ghost, and so lots of people have seen her very vividly in the windows, or she seats them at their table, or they hear her playing. They have the fireplace start itself, but they're fabulous. And we do host a lot of events there. We're going to actually be doing in January, and we haven't gotten to announce it formally yet, is a Folklore by the Fire, where we're going to have the fireplaces going, and we're going to tell the regional folklore in the room that used to be Ada's room, and it'll be really great. Yeah.
That's fun. So it's going to always be evolving and shifting. Does it, how do the tours shift? Is trial and error, and it would depend on each group too. Is it paranormal equipment, more history, more ghosty, sharing?
Yeah, you'll see
real experience. How can you share that?
Oh yeah, and that's definitely something I've learned throughout the years as well. Where we shift what we feature based on customer feedback, how far we walk, themes. So there's places I want to go to, but people don't want to walk that far, which is unfortunate because I want to share those stories so badly. So we're trying to create other tours, with local partners who we're partnering with Sailboat Company, and then we get to go past those areas and tell them via boat if we can't tell them via foot. So a lot of that has to do with what people want to do, what is weather contingent. There's several pubs we work with for pub crawls. When it comes to equipment, spooky versus history, I tell my guides I like to keep it at least 60 to 70% history for the most part, 30% ghost stories most of the time. In October, however, we flip it. and we do 70%. We try 70% more ghostly aim, 30% more historical, just due to customer feedback and the people that are more thrill seeking and looking for more of a haunted house or theatrical experience. We also will give a more theatrical presentation throughout the year. We're storytellers and dynamic, but in October, you might see more costumes, more sound effects, more.
But not staged still. It's still just sharing the story.
It's still sharing the story. It's just a matter of you might get more paranormal information and less of the history facts, just by nature of what people are looking for in October. It's still the same tour route. It's still the same stories. It's just presented in a way to sort of meet the audience where they're at, which is something I've had to learn from a business perspective. The Graveyard, we've remarketed as almost an entirely history tour based on feedback from the community and what they want operating in their local cemetery with respect to the dead. Now, that doesn't mean we don't talk about spirits. We talk about feelings and sightings, or we talk about vampires because there are consumption victims buried there. And they thought in the Great Consumption Scare that was caused by vampirism. So we still get to bring in these elements with being respectful to the history. Downtown, we get to do more legends like of cryptids and creatures and more fascinating things. We also got a lot of feedback too on people wanting different stories sometimes. So we created themed tours, Ghosts of Christmas Past and My Bloody Valentine, so that we can weave the holidays into the ghost stories.
Yeah, I love that because there's no off season.
No, there's not. There's not. We did this really fun thing when the Barbie movie came out. We did a girls' night out, and we did all lady ghosts, and everyone came dressed up as like, their favorite lady or their favorite Barbie, and we featured all stories of women through history and their ghost stories. I just try to come up with different things that sort of are informative but different and give people a new experience, just kind of like the speakeasy event coming up. Something people might not have ever done is like go investigate a speakeasy, and so we want to give people these opportunities.
Yeah. So just because we're mentioning it again right now, can you direct people where it's going to be, where they can get tickets, and who you?
Yep. So we're going to be hosting an event on December 27th. So we're hoping, because it's Christmas week, a lot of people will be off. It's called Bootleggers and Bloodlines, and it's going to be myself and the haunted collector John Zaffis, who's he's really an OG in the ghost hunting field. Yeah. And we will be at Palmer's Provisions, which is in Noank, Connecticut. We're going to start off with a dinner that we'll have downstairs in the restaurant. But this is a huge building, like 30,000 square feet. Wow. And so we're going to have dinner downstairs, and then we're going to go upstairs. John will present some Gilded Age items that match that time period from his collection. And then I'll be hosting people on a tour and investigation of the old speakeasy, which is that was used by the Patriarcha family mafia. It's not far from where Amelia Earhart got married. We'll talk about some of the curses of the shipbuilders there, how that even affects Amelia Earhart's legend. And we'll have a really good time.
I love that.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I've been doing this event called Dining with the Dead for about 14 years. And
yes.
So in this last year, I've had the privilege of starting that event at two venues that have very rich haunted history. And the first time that I was at the Coach and Lantern, I was just talking to the patrons about some of the history and all that stuff. And I said, I have always wanted, when I'm doing these Dining with the Dead events, for those spirits to like move a glass across the table or shut the lights off while I'm talking. Yes. And as I said that, they did it.
They sometimes do.
Lights went,
yes. Right, I always tell people, and you probably do the same, like if we're doing like a paranormal investigation, I'll bring you gizmos and gadgets for sure. I'll bring them on the tours too. I usually like to bring dowsing rods and EMF detectors and things like that on the tours. But and John Saff is actually the one who taught me this. Like, sometimes the simple responses are the best. Like, can you make a knocking sound?
Yes.
Can you just let me know you hear me? Like, just very like human, using your senses to pay attention to what spirit is showing you and shutting off all the noise. And sometimes that can be so much more meaningful. I laugh too, because the location where we're doing the event in December, we recently had some YouTubers come. They were very sweet. They reached out to me. I asked about a location and I couldn't be there. And I thought, you know what, Palmer's will be great. They can film a ghost hunt in there. And some of my guides went and, you know, gave them the history, and they filmed an investigation. And during their investigation, I think the show was called The Paranormal Files. And I didn't realize they had such a big following on YouTube. They're super cool. And they're there and they're doing ghost hunting. But the owner of the establishment always said, you know, in this room where the mafia like had a bar, these glasses always break themselves. And lo and behold, in their episode, a glass comes off the shelf and smashes on the ground. And their shock is so real, but I just love that it just happened.
Yes.
There, it wasn't something they heard. Spirit did it, you know? And I love that. I love that.
Yeah. Wow. It was like the best. It was like the highlight of like the 14 years that I've been doing this, because they continued, and it was on response to some questions. It was like off and on like 3 or 4 times. And it was just,
I love it so much. I also, my husband's been teasing me. I love dowsing rods, but dowsing rods are like very, like, you can make them out of clothing hangers. You don't have to have anything fancy or special. You can have whatever, right? But I try to tell people, like, yes, this can help you find a water source, but yes, it can also be sort of a divination tool. And so I just demonstrate how you ask spirit to show you yes with the crossing, and how you ask spirit to show you no. But that you always thank spirit for assisting you, right? Just go over this. And then I'm like, does anyone want to try them? And everyone's like, no, that was spooky. That was like, how did it know? You know?
I promote the dowsing rods to everyone. I think I get everybody hooked on them, actually. And so I have like homemade coat hanger ones to purchased ones to the LED light up at nighttime ones.
And I laugh too, because they're not afraid of this EMF detector, but I show them the dowsing rod, like how the dowsing rod answers, and they're
so funny what people get scared of, eh? And it's their belief system. You don't know where that's coming from too, or what their histories or traumas.
Right. I mean, it's just looking at me like, how did it know what she was saying, and how did it answer her, and am I okay with that? You know what I mean? Like, you can see all of that going in their head, and I'm like, they're used to me talking to them. It's your turn.
So do people share, like, do you have established rules with, like, they can take photos during the tour? Do they catch evidence? Do they share it with you? Do you share? Like, you want to talk about that?
Sure. So I encourage people to take photos during the tour. Usually, especially in the cemetery where it's more dimly lit, and we as tour guides are operating with a lantern. I tell folks, you know, we are vampires. Our eyes adjust to the night. So don't flash a camera at us like mid, talk. So what we do on both tours now is implement a post-story photograph time, so that people can take their pictures. They can take a little, try to get an EVP recording. They can play with the equipment we have, but it's like after each story. And then at the end, I always tell folks, like, send us your pictures. If we can debunk them, we will. People have accidentally sent us pictures of their own face they don't recognize in the dark. We get a lot of, this has to be an orb, and we know that they were, in a mausoleum with dirt and dust, so we'll tell them, like, hey, here's some things to look out for that would be the natural environment.
Educate.
Right. We're not saying that you didn't have an experience. This picture just might not be XYZ. And then if it is something that I will usually not just look at it myself, because I feel like there has to be multiple perspectives when it comes to producing evidence of any kind. Yeah. I will show it to my husband. I'll show it to my staff. I'll say, like, what do you see? Do you see anything? My husband's very practical. Like we said, men try to be a little bit more that way. Yeah. I'll be like, is there anything that could be? Once we deduce that we don't have anything that we're like, yeah, that's definitely a light or a bug or that person's face. Right. I'll say, can we share it? And so we usually try to share some of these things on social media. I'll tag the person that shared it. I won't ever say definitively on social media because we know nothing definitively. But what I'll say too is, what do you see? Yeah. We had this guest, we see this, what do you see? And also throughout the tours, on both tours, the favorite part of the tours has become photo evidence. So we log it on our personal phones and tablets, and we bring those to the tour. And at the end of the tour, we show people the evidence we've acquired over the years from guests like them, or from people in the town who have sent us their photos. And we show them and we say, listen, like, these are some of the evidence from these places. Send us what you've got. We'll add them to our collection, because the camera really can show things that we can't see with our own eyes. And it can capture things. And sometimes, it's just that seeing is believing for so many people. So it adds a really valuable element to the tour experience. And it allows people to participate, which I want them to do.
Yeah. Engaging, right? Yeah. Is there one that stands out more than others? Like the "you talk to me" moment?
Oh my gosh. Yes. So there's a few. So in Connecticut, in the cemetery, we talk about the first freed enslaved person in Eastern Connecticut is buried there. And it was a gentleman named Quash Williams. And when he became free, he became a minister of the first Black congregation in Eastern Connecticut. And he's just truly a fascinating, inspirational figure. His grave even says his favorite motto, "A walk as well as talk." Which I just think is so beautiful. And I feel so grateful he gets to share lessons with everyone who visits him. But my husband took a picture of me giving a tour standing by Quash's grave. And he took a series of a few photos. And so it's the back of me behind, standing next to the grave. And then you see the people sort of gathered in front. So they're looking at the grave illuminated. Standing among the people, you start to see a pair of glowing eyes. But again, you're like, okay, I don't know, right? And then with the next picture, you see the glowing eyes comes with like a face and an arm. And then you see the third one, you see a person with a minister's collar and full clothing and glowing eyes and darker skin, just standing there among the guests. And I always tell people that's Quash, checking on you just as he would have in life. But that picture was just so clear and fascinating. We also have one in that cemetery where we talk about an old captain from the 1600s, and you can see a man in the style hat like walking past a woman, and it's not another guest on the tour because it was a bachelorette party on that tour. So it was all women, and just cool things like that. In Georgia, we've had a few. There's one I captured one night. I was feeling feisty, and I was driving through the battlefield, and I was like, I just want one of you to show me your face. And I usually don't do that, but I did. I was in a mood, I guess. And I took a picture, and my pictures had been live. And then one came out and it looked like a streak of light. And then you saw a man standing there like this. And I was like, sorry, but I show people that. And so there's just some really great ones where there's no other explanation for what it could be.
So that might have answered the question that I wrote for you. If you could share one Georgia case where the history and the paranormal activity lined up so precisely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, So there's a couple things, but I think, there's two. One is most notably going to be the battlefields. So there are stories around the battlefields of a few things. One is a lady in white who appears walking the grounds with a lantern. The other is sort of this phantom soldier that appears with glowing green eyes. Both of the areas that these people appear in were where we can validate that a woman was looking for her long lost husband, and we can validate the other one appears over the area of the battlefield that was known as the Bloody Carpet, where the most people died. But a lot of the stories too, I think the most fascinating one in Georgia that matched up is, I like to read people's personal accounts. I'm a nerd, like I said. And there's this family called the Brotherton family in Georgia. And they were living in a cabin on the battlefield. When the battle began, they ran off into the woods, as did other local families, to hide in the woods, get away from the fray. They're there with their elderly and their children. So they're there for 8 nights because they don't know how long this is going to be. They come back home, and a lot of them, their homes were burned or destroyed. But the Brotherton family did have enough of the home to salvage. But they found that there were Union soldiers piled up around their house, as well as their horses. And they buried them in their yard. And the young lady, actually, of the home buried them and wrote about it and said, that they put the Yankees in the backyard. And now I've interviewed people who have no idea about that. I mean, literally no idea about that. But they are like, oh, I always drive by the Brotherton Road. And several locals have said, I've seen soldiers walk out into the road. I stop because they look like reenactors or something. And they're carrying like a pallet with someone and canteens and weapons. And I've gotten 2 versions of the story. One, they go in front of the car and everyone sees them clear as day. Or they go through the car and people get cold and they watch them go through the cars and wow. Realize the car is there. But when I found out that those people were buried there, and those folks that had those experiences had no idea that the Brotherton family buried them by that home that they're driving by. Wow. Like that just to me is like, right there, like mind blowing. Like they wouldn't know that, but it's true. Right. So that's probably one of the other most profound. And then there's another where a spirit is sort of seen walking angrily on this like stretch of wall. And we found out that that's actually was a site where a tree was where he was executed. So, just crazy things like that.
Well, that leads me to the question, just being mindful as we start to like wind down in our.
Yeah, so sorry.
Oh, no. You're doing great. This is great. I have like 2 more pages of questions. We could do this probably for 2 more hours, but
I'm such a chatty Kathy. I kissed the Blarney Stone twice. It's my fault.
I love it. I have that Irish, Scottish, German history, so like background in our family.
You understand?
Yes, very much so. Okay, so my question was, like in doing all the research that you do, so you deep dive into archives, historical research, interviewing people. So you do all of that stuff before the stories ever become part of the walks and the tours. Yeah. So how, like, what's the process of taking the raw history and being able to turn it into like that haunted story where people can feel it without sensationalizing any of the traumas?
Yeah. That's a good question. I always make sure at the beginning and end of my tour to make it known the reason we're there and the importance of respect and honor and dignity for the dead, and that's what we do. And I will kick people out if they're disrespectful to that. I'm there for the wrong reasons and will continue to do so. But when it comes to putting together like a respectful story, to me, it's about telling the story of that person in a way that honors their life as much as it mentions their death, because I don't want anybody I talk about to be defined purely by their death, right? So if I talk about them, I either want to tell you how their fellow soldiers saw them, about who their wife was or who they loved, or if they were trying to get home to their mom, or what their family life was like. Whatever I can tell you to help you get to know them a little bit better and understand who they were and where they came from and who loved them, that to me is going to make that story important. So whenever I hear a ghost story, and that's why I researched the Brothertons, I heard about these Brotherton ghost stories, but tell me about the Brothertons. What was this tough family doing during this hard time? I want to be able to tell you about that. So it's a mix of being able to give you the full scope human perspective of them. And I feel like that helps us to deliver it in a way that doesn't exploit them.
Yeah. And still honoring if there's living descendants.
Exactly. I want living descendants to be excited to come on the tour and not feel that we're demonizing anyone in any way or calling them evil. I personally have come to love and respect. I'll tell people your descendants feel like family to me, so you feel like family to me, but I want them to come in and feel proud of their ancestors and not like it's something that is bad in any way. I want them to be excited. And I won't tell ghost stories post World War One. I just feel strongly that that's too close for some people. And I don't want them to feel like, hey, I remember that. I don't want you doing that in that way. We try to keep it of an older time to make sure that there's that respect there given and grace for the people who are still alive and remember.
And do you get feedback about how the stories are presented? I mean, you're #1 ghost tour award winning, right? So
our reviews are honestly we go out there and hope for 5 stars. We work to give them to you. We do our darndest, but we can't guarantee that we're all things to all people. But we have been very blessed that we've gotten thousands of 5-star reviews over the years, talking about what these tours mean to them. Recently, I got some reviews where some college kids told me they learned more from me in 2 hours than they learned in class in their entire, college career. And that kind of feedback means the world to me because that means I'm doing my job right. They said, well, you just made me care about them and you made me cry, but you made me realize they were people. And that kind of feedback is exactly what I want. There's no better compliment that we can get as tour guides.
Yeah. They want you to be their history teacher.
Yes. Yeah. I've had field trips. It's so funny when they come, they're like, you should teach us history. And the teachers are like, I'm right here. I brought you here. They're really funny. They're like, I'll pay you to come do my job. They're funny, but I love it. I love it. And it all stems from telling it from that human experience and coming at it too unbiased. Especially I've learned that in writing about the American Civil War. You can't come into it with bias and prejudice against anybody. You've got to look at history for the people and share their stories and not your opinions on their lives. Just share their lives and you're in better hands.
This is your passion and your baby that you have given birth to, all of these books and time and energy. So in vetting out your team of people.
Yes, that's the hardest part. When I started hiring in Mystic, I was like, this is my baby. You better take good care of it. You're the babysitter. I'm still the mom, but I learned a lot throughout the years of hiring people, what we need. And there are definitely people that didn't work. And it's about having the ability to just say, hey, we're not right for each other, because there's a certain brand and image that I feel like our tours need. And I still want my voice to be heard and how I created them for a reason, which sets us apart from other tours and allows us to get these good reviews. But I've been very blessed in that the last 5 years, I've had a team that has been with me almost the entirety of that time. And they have a passion for history. They care about people. They have an enthusiasm, but they're also extroverted, and they just have this perfect blend. They don't have to be a theater major. They don't have to be a history major. They just have to be passionate and care and interested. And then that's what translates to people, and that's what helps our brand. And I say all that confidently. I'm proud of my Seaside Shadows team. On my to-do list right now is to hire for Southern Shadows so that I can be more dynamic going between both. But I'm just like, that's my new baby, and I'm scared to give it away. I'm doing the same thing I did before.
You want them to be compelling and still honor those ethical lines.
Yes.
Not embellish, not try, like, and engaging, right? Because it really is all of the emotions, like needing to
It's
know
so
when
much.
to toss in a little joke to make it lighter, and when we're hitting
Yes.
those.
I don't think, and the general public shouldn't think about it when they're on enjoying a tour, but there's so much. They have to be able to not just memorize the info, but uh, deliver it to you in a
Yeah.
way that you don't want to look at your phone for 2 hours. You want to hear what they're going to say. You can visualize what they're talking about. You can become immersed in the stories. They have to be able to do that in a public setting where people are drunk and driving by, and they have to deal with the public stage and still deliver it in a compelling
Yeah.
way and remember everything. They have to read the audience, see how their reactions are, what they need, where they need to be. There's so many things that go into giving a successful tour. And so getting a person who can do all of those, manage all those plates, it's not easy. And I think people think it is. So when you have a good tour guide, they're very special. And they make sure to take it with care. And I was actually watching one of my tour guides the other night on that YouTube program, and I heard her talking, and I looked at my husband like I was a proud mother, and I said, that's my voice. I hear my voice coming through her, and it's just beautiful. Like, and then I had this other young guy from my team that was there, and he was like, he gives this beautiful performance of one of the stories I taught him. And then he goes, and I want to thank Courtney McInvale for the research and teaching me all of this. And they're just like, just seeing them out there doing that and hearing that, it just warmed my heart,
I love that.
It's so
that. I'm just going to bring this up for you. So Randy and Sandy are from British Columbia. They're just sharing that you are great together. We've really enjoyed today. Thank you for this episode. Absolutely.
Oh, yay.
So
I'm glad we're together too.
Ditto. Please take the time to find Courtney's. So there's 2 websites actually. Do you want to share some of the socials and where people can find?
Yes. So there's my author site, CourtneyMcInvale.com. To be fully transparent, it's supposed to be updated by me, and I'm not the best website updater in the history of the world, but you'll still find my books on there and information about me. If you go to SeasideShadows.com, you will find all our information on our Mystic Connecticut tours, Ghost of Christmas Past, Downtown Mystic, the Mystic Graveyard, and the upcoming Bootleggers and Bloodlines event. And then if you go to SouthernShadows.com, you'll find all the information about our Haunted Heart of Chickamauga tour and our store.
We still have some time. I just wanted to make sure that we got it in, because once we start getting close to that time frame, we got to wind down really fast, and I don't want that to be rushed.
Oh, no worries.
So if you could invite one historical figure from Mystic, from the Revolution or the Civil War, onto one of your tours and see how they would share their story, who would it be? What would you want them to talk about?
So in Mystic, I have to do separate ones. In Mystic, there is a Revolutionary War veteran who died in an attack led by Benedict Arnold, America's notorious traitor, who was originally from that part of Connecticut. And his name is Thomas Williams. And I've always felt that Thomas has been there watching how I tell his story. I've seen him a couple times watching. And so I've always said, I hope I'm doing it right by you. And I want you to guide me. And sometimes I feel like it's his voice, not mine. So for that reason alone, I want to hear how he would say it, what his full version is, what he's thinking, what he's feeling. And weirdly, strangely, I would like to hear it from Benedict Arnold's perspective, but don't tell Thomas that or he'll be mad at me. But just from, a curiosity perspective, just because Thomas is always listening, I would love to hear what he would say, like what he would say about it from his eyes, and about all the other characters that are in the story that we talk about. So that would be one. In Chickamauga, I think I would want it to be, probably General John Bell Hood, who is the general that whose memoir I was reading and I heard. I've just had this strange fascination with him, and I've been even reading about his funny love life and how it inspired Gone with the Wind. But there's just something about him that draws me to him. There's something about his impulsive nature, but being sensitive, but being too much, but not being enough. And I feel like he's just such a compelling human figure in that way, because I relate to all those feelings. And he just really went forward as best he could, but then had tragedy. And there's just something about him. And I think I would just want to, one, hear how he thinks I'm doing with his story, but two, hear his perspective. That's the other part, is I want to hear what he would say.
Thank you for sharing that.
Of course.
So for folks that may never have the opportunity to hit Mystic or hit Georgia, but are fascinated with haunted history, how would you, some simple steps or things that you would encourage them to help them start exploring the layers of history in their own hometowns, like with respect and curiosity? What steps would you encourage them to start?
I'm so glad you asked that, because you don't have to come to me to experience haunted history. It's around us everywhere, all of the time. Of course, I love when people come see me, but you always have history in your backyard that will draw you to it. I encourage you, we're going to go back to this, to visit some local cemeteries, and not in a creepy way, but just a way, write down the names of some of the families that you see. Some of the stones that stand out to you. If you see one of those big obelisks, write down that name. Who is that? And then go to your local historical society and start to look up some of these people. First, you might find burial records. You can go on an ancestry website. That can be really helpful. And you start to find family trees and who they're connected with. And then at that point, you can go to places that you've learned about, where they lived, where they worked, and you can start to interview people if it's a building, and see if they've had any experiences there. See if you can link that to the person that you've been studying. You can look at even street names. There's no coincidence. There's the names of your streets in town, the names of your buildings, the names of your newspapers. Those generally have people in them that were something in your area. And once you find that and find their story, you can find the places, and you'll see those legends just start to pop out at you. I find my favorite source for legends is usually like old newspapers. And old diaries. If you can go to old bookstores, sometimes like resale bookstores, people sell these old like diary books or things where people describe things, and you can find treasures. But old newspapers, old journals that have been published, that will give you a lot as well.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you for sharing time and energy and space with
you're so sweet.
Our listeners. And I encourage everybody to check out. So there's not one, not two, not even three. There's more books that you have written, and check out the other interviews that you've done. Like, you share so much, and
thank you. I just love it. I just love it, and I just hope that passion is felt by other people when they are, reading or watching or visiting, whatever it is. I just want them to know that I truly love it, and I feel like all of this history and mystery is worth knowing, and that they love it too.
It's very much, and I think it's the legacy part, right? We all hope that our legacy will be told or shared after we're gone too, right? That
we do. I mean, I think it's very human, and I remember scoffing at that. So I love the Hamilton musical. I don't want to say that I don't, because I do, but there's this part where Hamilton's wife in one of the songs says to him, "We don't need legacy." Mm-hmm. And I heard that, and I remember, don't you say that, right? Because that is, we can't leave behind tangible items. We spend way too much time worrying about that as is, but we leave behind who we were. That's our legacy, and it's okay to want to leave that story behind, to help others, whether it's they learn from our mistakes, or they learn from our triumphs, or they just learn from our human experience and remember who we are and the impact we made. That's not such a bad thing.
Not at all. It's funny that you mentioned Hamilton. My granddaughter, she calls me Queenie. So my granddaughter is 5, and she has loved Hamilton since she was 6 months old.
Oh,
Like at 6 months, she would watch the whole thing and
so funny.
clap and move, and she still does. So we joke about it because my mom has researched our family history, and we're apparently related to Abraham Lincoln, and my mom loves all of that, and she loves to tell everybody all about it. And now we've got this baby in the family who does nothing but love that kind of history, and she's
That's
5.
so funny.
Like, yeah.
That's so funny. Well, and also God bless Lin-Manuel Miranda, who writes those, because he does write for Disney too, and he really just knows how to write a catchy bop. You know?
He does. So much so. Well, thank you so much, Courtney, for being here. I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody that has been in the chat who participated in the conversation. We appreciate you guys in this community. Make the show what it is. Marilyn Kaufman is coming on next week. We're going to be talking about spontaneous past life memories that surface is what we're going to be talking about.
That's exciting.
I know. Thank you to Joe Montaldo, the owner of our network. Thank you to Michelle DeRoche, our network manager, to the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 in the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM in New Orleans. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here, and we'll see you next week. Good night. Bye.